Hi, back at Women Having Conversations. It's so lovely to see you, Earcine. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Karen.
And
So lovely
we have to
to
say right
you.
up front before we introduce our guest that Kukuwa can't be with us today because she's out walking lions. Not any exaggeration. She's got a tour that she's doing over in Africa, so we won't have her with us today. But we are joined by our dear Dr. Dana Cohen, who's with us from upstate New York. And I'm really excited. I've known Dana for a very long time. And I just had an opportunity to reread Dana's book called Quench. So we're going to talk about water today and how you really need to eat your water. Yeah, forget the 10
Bottom
glass
line,
drinking, right? Let's just all eat our water.
I love it.
So, Dana, tell us how you were inspired to write this book.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry. I met Kukuwa a few weeks ago in Florida, and I'm sorry that she can't be with us. I just adore her, and she got the whole crowd moving and dancing. And it was mostly all the women, if you
Yeah,
noticed,
I
that
did.
were
Except
moving
for
and
Douglas. She's
dancing.
always in for a good run.
And the men were hanging out the sides, but it was so joyful, and she is so joyful. So hello, Kukuwa. Um, so the inspiration behind Quench, which was published about 8 years ago now, it's been a long time. I know it continues to do well because the bottom line is it's a very simple message. It's a message that we all need to hear, though, and continue to hear and be reminded of. Um, but I was inspired really from my co-author, Gina Bria, who's an anthropologist and runs something called the Hydration Foundation, had come into my office and asked if she could tell me about the work that she was looking at with the Hydration Foundation. And she had taught me about the work of Dr. Gerald Pollack, who's a world-renowned water researcher. And she sat there and blew my mind. Basically, was talking about that he has discovered there's another phase of water. And I was like, "What are you talking about? We all know that water exists as liquid, ice, and vapor. We've known that since kindergarten." And now she's telling me, well, there's more to it and fascinating. And I was like, and as she's talking to me, I was thinking, Gina, this is the book I want to write. This is what I've been searching for. I've been searching for my book. I've been searching for my platform. Couldn't quite figure it out. I know that hydration is super important, but didn't really realize that it's more about eating your hydration rather than just drinking more and more water. So, and then it went from there. When I started to dive into the research, I was first of all not prepared for how complex that H2O molecule is. The simplest molecule in the world turns out to be incredibly complex, and that some of the scientists don't even agree on these other phases of water. However, we figured out how to present it in a way that makes sense, and it turns out that I still get letters from people that learning how to hydrate or staying on top of their hydration has changed their lives, and it's truly the bottom line is that it's foundational. This is a simple message that is foundational in our health. Before you start on any nutritional supplement plan or lifestyle plan, you have to learn how to hydrate and what does that mean to be fully hydrated and we can talk about what that means simply. Um,
Yeah, it's like, and it's a practice that I I realize, and the reason that I kind of brought this to our table is that not only do I have like a torn ACL, a torn meniscus, I just eczema just started for the first time in my life. And I was like, what in the world am I doing wrong? Of course, I'm not working out because of the knee. It's like, and the tendency is to say, you're just getting old. I'm like,
yeah,
no, when was the last time you put salt in your water? I was like,
yeah,
I gotta get Dana's book back out. And so
yeah.
I'm back and I'm like realizing that just the concept of, being somebody who works out all the time, I'm constantly drinking water. That's never really, mentally that's always there. But it's like all of a sudden now it's like, oh, the world has shifted and you need to really pay attention again. And are you nourishing your body the way you should, or are you just flushing it out, right? I mean, is that an accurate question to ask?
Yeah, yeah, completely. So, um, the tagline in the book is 8 glasses a day is not the way. Um,
Wow.
the
Wow.
set point for everybody is different. It depends on you hit upon one thing. Movement is a hydrating act. So we'll talk about movement in a second, but you're at a disadvantage because you have a torn meniscus. You're not moving the way you're used to moving. So you're not
Mhm.
getting that aspect. It's also winter. You live in DC, I live in New York. Like winter, we're inside more, we're not getting sunlight. We have the heat on in the house. That heat, I think winter is more dehydrating than summer,
Yeah.
for people living up north. I really
Mhm.
do. New York, those radiator heats, like you wake up in the morning and you're so parched.
Wow.
Um, you know, so so yeah, and as we get older, we're losing muscle mass, which holds on to way more water than fat. So we're losing muscle mass as we get older. That's another reason. More ultra processed foods, our environments. I don't know how much you've been traveling lately, but planes, trains, and automobiles are super dehydrating. So there's lots and lots of reasons as to why. And once again, my job is to sort of ding, 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 remind you that we need to stay on top of this every single day. More so than any diet, any nutrition program, you need to stay on top of your hydration first and foremost. And then everything else hopefully starts to fall into place from there. Yeah.
Or
Wow.
seeing I mean, you run a farm. Like,
Yes.
I mean, water is like, your
It's
lifeblood.
crucial. Yes, it
So
is.
do you find yourself working harder at, like, how much everything needs water? Do you take as good a care of your body and its needs for water as you do your land?
Wow. I'm so grateful to be here today because of the past 10 years I've been studying water and structured water and studying with different people, reading Dr. Emoto work and work with a friend who's really into water. So I've been blessing the rivers. I have a program where I go out and bless the rivers with the school children. So, wow.
I
Today,
love it.
I am just so excited that you're here because I know for sure you're going to clear up a lot of things for me. I just know you're an
Yes.
answer to my prayer. I feel like
Oh,
I'm close, but I feel like I'm not there.
I love it. I can't wait to meet you in person. We talk about a study in the book about cows that are pasture raised that eat grass,
Hmm.
consume, I don't remember the exact number, but at 2/3 less water than
Wow.
cows that are grain fed, and so that's the whole premise of the book. The book is about eating your water, so eating more plants, more the way that Mother Nature intended. That fiber holds on to the water better. It gets into our cells better and stays there versus drinking more and more water. So it's very interesting, the whole farm and water
Yeah.
connection. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Can
would
you
love
drink too
to.
much water?
Yeah. Oh
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, you can drink too much plain bulk water. I see it at least once a week in my practice
wow.
of patients that are coming in and have an abnormally low sodium or chloride on their blood tests, which is a basic test that everybody gets done if they're getting blood drawn.
Mhm.
And when I question them about how much water you're drinking, I drink so much water. I'm really good about drinking my water.
Wow.
And they're flushing out their electrolytes to the point where their blood tests are not normal. Like they're not
Wow.
getting seizures. Like that's a known thing of like where you have polydipsia, where you're literally drowning yourself in water and you can actually have a seizure from it.
Wow.
That's very rare, although Brooke Shields, I think it was last year, was preparing for an off-Broadway show and was drinking a ton of water because she was singing in it and doing all this stuff, and she had a seizure because she drank too much water. So
Wow.
it happens, but I see on a daily basis this over drinking, on a weekly basis, where they're drinking so much water that their electrolytes are off, and then the symptoms are the same as a low grade dehydration. So they're fatigued,
Mhm.
they're getting muscle cramps, so too much water and not drinking enough water, or this low grade dehydration that we all see every single day, and that is way more common than we thought.
Wow.
So yes, you can drink too much water, and I worry because a few years ago there was that whole drink a gallon a day challenge. I think it was Tom Brady who had said, I do this thing. We're not all Tom Brady. We're not that kind of athlete that we need to be drinking a gallon of water a day. I think that could be dangerous for a lot of people. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Um,
Wow.
so I'm intrigued. Like I know that the shake is okay, but right now we're all doing protein. So I took and Dana's book will tell you like good sea salt, and I have the most beautiful sea salt that's like got numbers and everything from Cape Cod. It's like so beautiful. I got it for Christmas. So now I'm like putting in everything, including my protein powder.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what I should be doing or not, but it's like, can you just give our listeners just sort of like kind of the basics of what we should kind of, I mean, I know that then we're going to talk about how you do it when you travel, because that's my concern.
Okay. Yeah. So, the basis of the book, in a real big nutshell, it's a smoothie book. There's a ton of smoothie recipes because what better way to get real food in? You're getting, fiber from the vegetables, you're getting vitamins and minerals from the vegetables, and then you can make it a meal if you want to add protein in the form of either protein like cottage cheese or hemp seeds or tofu or whatever, or protein powder. That's a good processed food for the most part. There's lots of great ones out there. So you could make it a meal, but you don't have to do that. If you could give yourself one smoothie a day where it's greens blended with water, so not juiced, you want the fiber, and then whatever else you want to put in there. You could put berries for flavor. You can put lemon. You can put chia seeds, ginger, spice, whatever you want to put in there. There's tons of recipes from very simple to complex, and anywhere in between. But that green smoothie a day it's my belief that that green smoothie a day is probably 2 to 3 times more hydrating than the same amount of water, of plain bulk water, because that's the kind of
Wow.
fluid that when you get it in, it's going to stay with you. Your cells are going to absorb it better. It has the minerals, it has all those things in it. So that's the basic gist of the book, although there's a whole section on salt. We do talk about salt. Now, you don't need to salt every single glass of water or every smoothie that you have, but my suggestion is that you do use good salt. So there's a difference between table salt, which is like Morton's, the umbrella person, which is mostly sodium, versus a good sea salt or a pink salt, like a Himalayan pink salt, or a rock salt, like real salt that comes from the salt mines of Utah. Those salts are have this full spectrum of minerals in it. And those are, so and there's a difference. I think there's a difference health wise. There's absolutely a difference taste wise. You do a finger, a taste test of table salt versus a real salt, and it's so much better. The minerals are so much more delicious and so much saltier and using less amount. So, yeah, salt is not the demon that it once was. If you have a blood pressure problem or you're on medications for blood pressure, you should talk to your doctor. But I still think that they're over prescribing too much of a low sodium diet. But it's individualized. You should ask your doctor. Um, did that answer the question? Or did
Yeah,
I?
perfect,
I don't remember.
perfect.
That was good.
Good, good. Yeah,
Ursine, you grow so many amazing things. Turmeric, and I'm thinking about what
Mm.
comes out of your land that could go into one of the smoothies that Dana's talking about. So it's like,
Absolutely.
are you like practicing this in terms of
Yeah.
being able to do those kind of smoothies every day?
Yes. I mean, I grow my own turmeric, and last year I did ginger and like cucumbers in the summer. And, I have a lot of greens that I can do green smoothie with. And last year I was really into smoothies. So I know when I read her book, I'm going to really get back into them.
yeah.
So,
It's a
Dana,
great practice.
I do a salad every day. I
Same.
haven't been doing smoothies all winter,
Yep.
but because that's more my summer thing, right? In spring. But I do
Yeah.
a huge salad every day. And someone once said, if you do a huge salad, you're getting a lot of water. Is that true?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, you don't have to do smoothies. If you're eating well, and you're hydrating well using vegetables and hydration. I'm not saying you're not going to drink zero water. We need to drink some
Right.
water.
Absolutely.
But if you're doing that, you don't have to do smoothies. It's just a great, easy way. It's also a great, easy way to get more plants in your diet, right? So,
Hmm.
because you could
Absolutely.
throw a ton of things in your smoothie and get that diversity of plants and fruits and spices and things and seeds, so there's that too. But it doesn't have to be smoothies. And also in the winter, I don't feel like frozen smoothies. I do have them sometimes. Like I have frozen
Yeah.
berries. I have frozen herbs that I grew over the summer that are all in
Yeah.
my fridge. So I sometimes do them, but I'm more of a soup and stew
Hmm.
and you know, I'll make condiments in my blender. So any ways that we can sort of
Mhm.
um, get more plants in is a good way to do it. And salads, yeah, we have a salad. That's a rule of thumb that I try to tell people. Have one salad a day. Make it a
Yes.
rule. I don't care if it's iceberg lettuce in a dish that you have to shovel in. Like get that fiber in, get those greens in, it's more for hydration, too. But yeah, I mean, I would love your salad to be diverse and robust, but
Yes.
whatever it takes for somebody to do that,
Well, that sort of
I'm
kind
okay.
of flows into the whole travel thing because like I'm very well known, like with my breakfast, I will eat salad for breakfast. But that kind of takes it as like the obligation to do grind chia seeds and all of that when you're traveling is like that just goes out the window. It's just not a doable thing. And every time I look at one of those smoothie shops, I'm like, how much sugar is in that? It just seems like it's really heavy sugar, so it just doesn't interest me. But it does mean that as long as I'm doing it, like eating salads all the time, I'm probably going to keep myself better hydrated on a
Yeah.
plane,
Yeah.
hopefully.
I've told a lot of people like to, and this doesn't have to, everybody's an individual, whatever works for somebody. But I had a person tell me recently, that they just bought a travel blender, like a little travel blender
Wow.
to take
Uh-huh.
with them. And, when they get that, because they travel a lot, they're actually in the supplement industry and they're constantly going to, hotels and shows and he's trying to live walk the walk. And he said it's made a huge difference for him. So, but it doesn't have to be that. But that's a thought. That's something that we can maybe plant in somebody's head. Like, why not? And then I'll always do this when I travel to any hotel or any conference. My first stop, typically from the airport, is the grocery store, the Whole
Yeah.
Foods or something, and I will
Absolutely.
pick up some fruit and stuff to have in the room. I do buy bottled water because I don't
Yes.
wouldn't eat I don't know if they'll have it at the hotel, and it's typically cheaper in the grocery store rather than spending $9 at the hotel for the bottle. So um so you can travel with the travel blender, buy some greens and simply doing that could be a really, a little hack, but it doesn't
Hmm.
have to be. But travel is especially, we go to Vegas a lot. We go to Arizona for conferences, these very dry, literally deserts.
Mhm.
And so staying on top of our hydration. And the other thing is, when I go to conferences, I'm sitting all day long in those. They're grueling. Conferences are more grueling than like my hardest work day. You're sitting in that lecture hall for
Mhm.
hours upon hours and your brain power, you're taking in all this information and you're not hydrating. And so important to sort of think about your environment, and you're in the desert if you're in Vegas or Arizona. So it's funny. I think I tell this story in one of the books about how I used to, my first time after I started writing the book, I go to Las Vegas for a conference, and I said to myself, I'm going to hydrate. Like I'm going to walk the walk. I'm going to really see if this makes a difference in me. And there's at every table in Vegas, there's a pitcher of water in front of you that two people share in glasses. So I proceed to drink tons of water, everything. I'm like, I'm going to hydrate. I'm going to hydrate. I'm drinking, drinking, drinking. And, in between lectures, I'm running to the bathroom because I got to pee. And by the end of the day, I was like, I didn't notice anything. I did not feel better. Then
Wow.
a few months pass. I go to a conference in Arizona, and in their hotel room, they have infused water. So they've got like
Wow.
prickly pear water or citrus water or cucumber water. And now I'm really starting to research the book and knowing about eating my water. So I changed it to a more infused water, and not just drinking ever more bulk water.
Hmm.
And that made all the difference in the world. By the end of the day, I was ready to party. I was ready to like, I feel good. I feel hydrated. I feel energized. It was a completely different ball game.
Wow. So to
Wow.
that point, like you talk about these micro movements, which kind of when you sit and talk about like being in a conference situation,
Yeah.
like that was really interesting to me, and I'd forgotten that part of the book. Like, can you just tell our listeners like
Yeah.
what that means with a micro movement and what it has to do with
Yeah.
hydration?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, movement is a hydrating act. So um, we talk about the fascia. Fascia is this network of tissue that surrounds every single cell and every single organ in our body. And it wasn't until this brilliant doctor had decided to put a microscope under the living skin of somebody that we
Wow.
really understood what fascia does. So fascia, it's a communication system. So it communicates, but it's a hydraulic pump, right?
Wow.
So think about this. When we move our joints, we're moving fluid in and out. When we bob our head up and down, fluid is going in and down. When we twist, it's going up and down our spine. So movement is a hydrating act, and we saw it on this. You see how fascia acts as a hydraulic pump. But what's interesting is that before that, we only thought that hydration gets moved via blood and lymph. And
Mm,
then, it has to go through the capillaries, and then it gets spread out by osmosis at the capillaries. That is one way, but we didn't think about the hydraulic pump that fascia is. So
Mhm.
we need to move, and real uh, doable moment is that I tell people first thing in the morning before your feet even hit the floor, start from your toes to your head and just
Wow.
move your limbs. Twist, turn in ways that you're not used to moving. So start from your toes, wiggle your toes, do ankle swirls, do knee bends, lift up however you can figure out ways to move from toes to head, do it. Take 3 minutes and just and then think about it throughout the day too. If I can plant a seed as to like the next time you're sitting in the elevator, like do
Wow.
whatever it is. If you're sitting at your desk, move around, like twist and twirl in your chair. That's really good. There's studies that show that people who fidget live longer.
Wow. Amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Wow,
yeah,
Dana,
that's cool.
you're making me really feel good because 2 years ago I started lifting little weights. I never lifted weights in my life, and I'm 76 and I was 75 at the time, but um I felt like I felt like I was losing muscle mass, and that had never happened to me before because I'm on the farm and I'm real active, but I could tell my body was beginning to lose muscle mass. I could look at it, look in the mirror and tell. So my grandson bought me a weight set, and I did start with the weights and I got fanatical with it. I mean, I would do it like every day. Then I realized you don't need to do weights every day. And so I went into that. I was already doing yoga a lot, and then I started doing qigong. And honestly, for the past 2 years, since I've been really into qigong, really into yoga, really disciplined myself. I've never been this disciplined in my life, I have to be honest. But at this stage of my life, and when I turned 75, not that it frightened me, but I knew my body was drastically changing, and I could see it in front of my eyes. And I thought, I have to do something. So I just started a lot of researching and taking better care of myself the best I could. So I can't wait to read your book because I know it's going to be the icing on my cake. And I know it. I just
I
It's
know
love
it.
true.
it. I
I
love
mean,
it.
the other thing is like the importance of fats in our diet. How many
Yeah.
years did I know my mom, whenever she like
Oh my
dieted, the
God.
first thing that left was fat. There was no,
Right.
none of us had any
Right.
fat to eat. And I'm now,
Right.
like, now it's like all these great fats. And does that, like, when you add that when you're making your smoothie, should you always have a fat?
I think so. I think, we have a whole chapter on fat in the book and what oils you should be cooking with, but it's so important for the cellular membrane to have good, healthy fats in our diet. And so, there's these aquaporins. These are the channels that hydration gets into our cells, and they're lined with fatty acids. So if you have an unhealthy cell because the membrane's not healthy because you're not getting enough fats in your diet, then there's no, it doesn't matter how much
Wow.
water you're drinking. So fats are super important. And there's a lot of misinformation about fats in our diets and that kind of thing. And by the way, I just want to say, Ursine, it just goes to show you, like, it's never ever too late to
Yes.
change or start something new. And little small movements can, or small changes can have huge impact. And I'm going to say, starting with hydration,
Hmm.
in one day you'll notice a difference. Like, this is how simple it is.
Wow.
Hydrate better, using food, some water, movement, gentle movements, that kind of thing. And I have to get this out because I think it's really important. How do you know you're hydrated? So I'm going to give you the one thing that's the most important thing to know is that we are meant to urinate every 2 or 3 hours during our waking hours.
Wow.
Right. So if you're not peeing every 2 or 3 hours, if you're working on the farm for 4 or 5 hours straight and you haven't gotten up to pee, you're not hydrating well enough. So it really important to keep note of that. If you have to write little hashtags or something, then that's a good way to do it. But that's a really important marker for yourself. There's no better way to test for this low grade dehydration.
I had no
Um,
idea about the
yeah,
peeing.
Really?
Thank
yeah.
you for that.
Output is important.
I had
Urine
no
output
idea.
is really
I
important.
pee a lot, but I thought I was peeing too much. I was like,
No.
I'm peeing too much. Oh my God. Am I gonna get what they call it, leaky? What's that thing? They said when you need to wear a
Incontinent.
pamper. Yeah, right.
You
And so
need to go get the Depends out.
I was real concerned about it. And so, Dana, thank you, because I thought, oh my God, I don't want to have to wear those, right? I
No,
don't want to be
no.
that girl who's walking around with
It's
those
good.
on.
It's good.
That
It
is
means you're getting up
hysterical.
to go to the bathroom and pee and you're moving more. So either
But you know,
way.
you know,
Wow.
this is a podcast that's, designed for women 50 and over. And so these things are like realistic issues that we have. And
Right.
I just think about all the people who are sedentary and like
Yeah,
in nursing homes and places
Yeah.
like that. It's just like
absolutely.
they're just talk about being dehydrated. It just makes me so sad.
I know, me
Yeah.
too.
Really quick story in the book. We talk about my co-author's mother who was in a nursing home, who was getting UTIs, urinary tract infections, getting rushed to the hospital until she started to ask the nurses, can she have orange juice with some chia seeds in her morning drink? And
Oh,
and that changed everything. So it was like her version of a smoothie, the best that she could do for her mom, and it made a huge difference. She never again went to the hospital. She was afraid to also ask for water or ask for help, so that's a catch-22. The nursing home situation is, people need to stay on top of their loved ones and try to figure out hacks on how to help improve that. But there's definitely ways.
Good to
mm,
know. Good to know.
that's
So
beautiful. That's beautiful.
fats, greens, a little bit of salt, a little bit of
Yes.
lemon. What am I missing? Have we covered sort of the basis of getting started on this? I think we have.
Yeah, you could throw some
Wow.
berries in there for polyphenols, or yeah, yeah, that's a perfect easy smoothie. Greens blended with water, a little lemon, a little chia, some berries in there, and really easy, done. And then you can go as complex as you want from there.
So I'm going to ask
Beautiful.
one last question. We're almost out of time. You know that whole thing, like if you do this and your fingers, that's always supposed to be a sign of being like,
I'm
Yeah.
thinking now.
how about if
And I
it's
think
just old skin?
It depends. It really depends. We did talk about it. It's not the best way to look at it. What I said about the urinating every 2 or 3 hours during our waking hours is the best thing. Now, if you're urinating while you sleep, that's a whole different. We do lose antidiuretic hormone as we get older, so that's a known sort of thing. You might
Mhm.
have to stop hydrating maybe a little bit earlier in the day to help because sleep is important too. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of information about that in the book.
Awesome. Awesome. Dana, thank you so much, Dr. Dana. It has been an absolute pleasure today. Racine, do you
My
have anything you want
pleasure.
to add at the end here?
Wow. She makes me feel good about some things that I've changed in my life, and I'm gonna get better when I read her book. I'm gonna get so much better. But I'm really grateful to you. This is information that we all need. We all need this information. You are a most valuable person on this earth, and I'm really grateful and thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh,
Oh,
thank you. What a
thank
beautiful
you.
close.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Thanks for being a part of
you.
Women Having Conversations. Until next time.
Bye-bye, everyone.